All right, today we're diving into something that's, well, it's a real head scratcher. We're talking about the AI common sense paradox.
I mean, you've seen it, right? One minute an AI is passing the bar exam, composing symphonies, writing code, basically doing things that make it seem superhuman. But then you ask it a super simple real-world question and it just falls flat on its face. So what gives? How can something be so brilliant and at the same time completely clueless?
Okay, let me give you a classic example. Let's say you tell an AI this. The wet newspaper that fell off the table is my favorite newspaper, but now that my favorite newspaper fired the editor, I might not like reading it anymore. Then you ask, hey, can I replace my favorite newspaper with the wet newspaper in that second sentence? The AI says, yep, you sure can. Now, you and I know that makes zero sense, right? Because we get that newspaper can mean two totally different things, the physical paper itself and the company that publishes it. The AI, it just doesn't see the difference.
And that little failure isn't just some random glitch. Nope. It's actually pointing to a much, much deeper issue, something researchers call the common sense gap. Now, this is the really important part. The AI isn't messing up because it doesn't have enough information. I mean, it has access to more data than we could ever dream of. It's failing because it's missing something fundamental, something we all just have, that basic gut-level feeling for how the world works. So, what in the world is going on inside the AI's mind to cause this? Well, the leading explanation right now is this really cool and kind of funny metaphor. It's called the stochastic parrot. I know, stochastic sounds super technical. It's really just a fancy way of saying based on probability or randomish. So think of a stochastic parrot like a real parrot, one that's learned to perfectly copy human words and phrases. It sounds like it's talking, but it has absolutely no idea what it's saying. It's a total master of mimicry, but there's zero understanding behind the words. And this quote from the researchers who came up with the term, it just hits the nail on the head. They said AI is stitching together sequences of linguistic forms according to probabilistic information, but without any reference to meaning. Just let that sink in. No reference to meaning. The AI isn't really thinking in the way we do. It's playing an unbelievably sophisticated game of what's the most likely word to come next based on mountains of text it's been trained on. So this whole parrot idea reveals two massive blind spots. First, the AI can't know anything beyond the data it was trained on. It's never touched anything, smelled anything. It has no real-world experience. And second, and this is the big one for our newspaper example, it has no idea if what it's saying is true, false, or just plain bonkers. To the AI, it's all just a game of statistics. Okay, so this brings us right to the heart of it all. If AI is just this incredibly advanced parrot, what is it that we have that it's missing? What even is common sense when you really try to pin it down? And to answer that, we actually have to take a little trip back in time, way back. Because it turns out this isn't a new problem. People, philosophers especially, have been wrestling with this exact question for more than 2,000 years.
The whole idea of common sense has had quite a journey. If you go back to ancient Greece, Aristotle thought of it as this special faculty in our minds that pulls together everything from our five senses, sight, sound, touch, into one single coherent picture of reality. Then, the Romans came along and sensus communis became more about social intelligence, tact, public spirit, just getting along. Fast forward to the Enlightenment, and it's seen as these basic, self-evident truths we all share, the very foundation of reason. And then you have Descartes in the 17th century, who saw bon sens as the raw ability to tell true from false, but he warned that it's not enough on its own. So yeah, it's a really slippery concept to define.
And that whole long, winding history, it brings us full circle right back to our AI paradox. Because what it all comes down to is this massive, fundamental difference between just knowing a lot of facts and actually understanding something. And this really breaks it down perfectly. Look at human common sense. It's grounded in physical experience, right? In living in the world. It integrates all our senses into a whole picture. It includes social and even ethical judgment. Our entire goal is to understand reality. Now look at the AI. It's grounded in its training data, period. It doesn't integrate senses, it just stitches text together based on probability. It has zero reference to meaning. Its only goal, predict the next word. That's it. It's a totally different game. So let's go back to that soggy newspaper one last time. Now we can see exactly why the AI failed. It failed because it doesn't live in our world. It has no concept of what a wet piece of paper feels like, or what an institution that hires and fires people even is.
All it knows is that the sequence of letters in newspaper often shows up near other words in its data. It has the words, sure, but it's totally disconnected from the world those words are supposed to describe. So where does this all leave us? What's the big takeaway? Why does it even matter, this difference between a parrot that mimics and a person who actually gets it? All right, let's recap our journey real quick. We've seen that AI has this surprising and pretty significant common sense gap. We've learned that's because it's acting like a stochastic parrot. It's brilliant at mimicking text, but there's no understanding there. We dug into how common sense itself is this rich 2,000-year-old idea that's evolved from just processing sensory data to deep social wisdom. And all of this highlights that core, crucial difference between statistical knowledge and genuine understanding.
And all of that leaves us with a really big, important question to chew on. As we start weaving AI into every single part of our lives, are we remembering the difference? The difference between a tool that can just parrot a correct-sounding answer and a partner that can truly understand the question we're asking in the first place. It's definitely something to think about.